Britain's Guardian newspaper reported recently that the U.S. National Security Agency has been collecting the phone records of millions of Americans. An NSA employee, 29-year-old Edward Snowden, has come forward as the source of the leak. U.S. officials don't deny the reports, but they do say that no one listens to anyone's phone calls and that the data gathered has stopped several terrorist plots. Well, we are joined now by VOA's Doug Bernard, who follows these sorts of stories on VOA's Digital Frontiers blog.
Happy
Doug,
to be
welcome.
here.
Yes, we're very glad to have you. So now this story, has created a huge uproar.
Right.
What are the central concerns at the heart of this?
So there are really two stories here. The first one that you mentioned, there was a secret court order that the NSA, the National Security Agency, had sought and was granted for Verizon phone records. For basically a month of April, but all of the phone records. So what the NSA was looking for is the metadata. Basically that's the time of the call, the location, who you were calling, that sort of thing. But they weren't recording those calls. However, that is millions and millions of bits of data on millions of subscribers, right? So I think that was the first story and the nature of it. Verizon was pushed into it by a secret court order.
And what are people's concerns about this?
Well, people's concerns, obviously, I think, no one likes to think that their privacy in any way is being pushed, perhaps, certainly not by the government or corporations, whoever it is. Now, this second story, this second leak that happened was about something called the PRISM program. Now, whereas Verizon was pushed into cooperating with the NSA, PRISM was very different. 9 tech companies, including the big ones, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Skype, others, voluntarily agreed to give the NSA access to the data flowing through their networks. Now that means everything. That means email, that means video chats, that means all the things that you do online, the NSA potentially had access to that. Why is that of interest, not just to Americans, but people around the world? Well, obviously for Americans, again, nobody likes to think that their data or their privacy is being violated. But remember, on the internet, most of the world's traffic flows through servers in the United States. So say if I were in Bucharest and I was sending an email to somebody in Burkina Faso, it's very likely if I did any of that online, it probably went through the United States, and that means the NSA probably had access to it.
So this is not just affecting Americans then?
There's a lot of concerns that are being expressed around the world. For example, Germany's Chancellor, Angela Merkel, has said that this concerns her greatly, and she intends to bring this issue up with President Obama at their next meeting just about a month from now.
Now, it's interesting, this case, Edward Snowden has come out. He's publicly declared himself to be the source of these leaks about the NSA tracking. Now, we also have the other case of Bradley Manning, who was the one who leaked the WikiLeaks documents. What are some of the similarities and differences between the two?
Let's look at some of the similarities first. Both of these guys were fairly young. They had checkered military backgrounds. They kept to themselves, they were sort of loners, and both say that they were motivated to do what they did by a sense of truth and a certain sense of justice. There's a key difference, though. In the WikiLeaks example, Bradley Manning released about 700,000 documents. Those documents were everything from the goings-on at the State Department to military logs. It really was, in a sense, a document dump, right? In the case of Snowden and the PRISM documents and the secret court order in the Verizon matter, these are very specific instances of what, at least in his mind, are wrongdoing by the U.S. government. So I think they have a very different complexion and a very different nature, these two cases.
Right, and there are going to be a lot of questions, I think, coming out of this in terms of legality and that's going to be.
Of course, the NSA, the Obama administration says these programs are legal, and they are, but they are legal because Congress has given the agency this authority. But people who are fighting these things have never been able to bring them before a full court hearing to really test their legality. So in some ways, it's still kind of an open question.
Right. All right, Doug. Well, we know that you will continue to follow this closely for us. Thank you so much, Doug Bernard, author of our Digital Frontiers blog.